The front door creaks open with a sound like old hinges clearing their throat. Dust dances in the light, cutting through warped blinds. Each beam golden, weary, and slanted like sunlight that remembers better days. June Carter, in her early 50s, stands in the doorway. She's neither tall nor small, not striking nor plain. She wears a worn button-up shirt tucked into faded jeans, boots that have walked through too many kinds of silence. Her face says more than she ever will. The look in her eyes suggests not that she's come home, but that home has been left waiting, quietly abandoned, politely resentful. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. She steps inside. The floorboards offer soft protest. Her boots leave temporary prints in the dust coating the wooden floor. A framed picture on the wall leans slightly left. She straightens it, then lets it be crooked again. Some things aren't ready. The kitchen smells of disuse and old time. She opens a window. The latch sticks. She pushes harder. It gives with a sudden click. Air rushes in, cool and dry. It carries no scent of memory, only the echo of one. In the living room, an old radio sits on a shelf. She plugs it in, presses power. Nothing. She taps it once with the back of her knuckle. Still nothing. She leaves it be. On the opposite wall, a wooden clock hangs above the fireplace. Large, round, elegant in a way that's forgotten how to impress. Its hands are frozen at 3:17. Not 3 o'clock. Not half past. Just stuck. June stands before it for a long while, not studying it, not confused, just acknowledging. Like seeing an old friend who once broke your heart, but is still part of your history. She unbuttons her sleeves, rolls them up to her elbows, moves to the hallway closet. It groans open, inside a mop, a cracked bucket, a box of nails, a quilt that smells like cedar and rain from 100 years ago. She takes the mop. The work begins slowly. She starts with the entryway, sweeping cobwebs, wiping baseboards. There's no music, only the rhythmic swish of the mop, the occasional clink of metal against wood, the steady breath of someone who is too focused to feel tired. In the bedroom, she strips the bed with a single tug. The sheet comes off in one breath. The mattress underneath has the faintest shape of someone who hasn't been there in years. She flips it over. In the corner, a small box. She hesitates, then opens it. Inside, a child's mitten, one side scorched and curled. A photo half faded, too light to make out the face, but enough shadow to suggest a child once stood there. June closes the lid, carefully, deliberately. She returns it to where it was. In the bathroom, she wipes the mirror. Her reflection appears slowly, first as a blur, then as a woman with eyes that look like they've forgiven the world, but not herself. She doesn't linger. Back in the kitchen, she boils water for tea. The kettle is dented but honest. The whistle comes low, then grows. She pours into a mug with a chipped lip, sets it by the window. Doesn't drink, just lets it sit, steam rising and curling toward the ceiling like forgotten prayers. Outside, the sky begins to shift. Daylight softens, surrenders to the evening. The house begins to feel less empty, not because someone else is there, but because someone finally stayed. June moves to the fireplace. The clock above remains still, its silence louder than the wind. She doesn't try to fix it. Instead, she sits beneath it, not to rest, not to think, just to be. The kettle cools, the mop leans against the wall, the last light fades from the hallway, catching the edge of the photo still hanging crooked on the wall. The hands of the clock do not move. Neither does she. Fade to black. Exterior, small town market, early morning. The town wakes slowly. Not with traffic or alarms, but with the soft rattle of crates being unloaded. The creak of canvas tents stretching open. The quiet greetings passed between vendors who've seen each other every Saturday for the past decade. June Carter walks along the gravel path that cuts through the morning market. She doesn't carry a basket. doesn't stop at stalls. Her hands stay in the pockets of her coat, her shoulders slightly hunched, though the weather is forgiving. People nod. She nods back. No smiles exchanged, no words. Not out of rudeness, but out of a kind of mutual agreement. June isn't here to socialize. She's here for what she needs and not a thing more. At the bread stand, she picks the same loaf she always does. Oat sourdough, end slices crisp. The vendor places it in paper. June pays with exact change. They nod again. It's a dance both know by heart. Near the flower stand, an old woman waves. June pauses for a second, just a second, then keeps walking. The wave lingers in the air for a moment before falling back to earth. A gust of wind brushes past. June pulls her coat tighter. At the far end of the market, near the bench by the post office, she stops. Something on the ground catches her eye. A handkerchief. Not crumpled, not filthy. Just waiting. The fabric is soft linen, pale cream with edges slightly frayed. It's folded into a neat square as if placed down rather than dropped. June bends to pick it up. There in one corner, a small set of initials embroidered in faded blue thread. MC. She stares at the letters, not shocked, not quite curious, just still. A voice behind her, an older man calling to his dog, breaks the moment. She slips the handkerchief into her coat pocket without a word. Like folding a thought you're not ready to read, she moves toward the coffee stand. The line is short. People talk in hushed tones about gardens, church events, someone's niece coming home. June doesn't join the conversation. She orders black coffee in a paper cup, no sugar. When she turns to leave, she sees her reflection faintly in the window of the pharmacy across the street. The sunlight cuts across her face, revealing what the shadows hide. Time, fatigue, and something that might be loneliness or might be resilience. Some days they wear the same coat. As she walks back through the market, she passes a boy selling eggs. He offers a grin, missing 2 front teeth. June allows herself the faintest nod, then keeps moving. Back on Main Street, the sidewalk cracks under her boots. She crosses the road without looking. Cars know to stop for her. Not out of fear, just out of rhythm. Near the edge of town, she passes the bus stop where no one ever waits. A faded schedule flaps in the breeze. 1 bench, 1 street lamp, and 1 crow watching from a wire above like a sentry with no one left to warn. When she reaches her house, she doesn't go in right away. She stands on the porch, coffee still warm in her hands. The door behind her stays closed. She takes out the handkerchief, unfolds it carefully, runs her thumb along the stitching. It's not her embroidery. She's sure of that. But the initials match something buried. She folds it back, slips it into a tin on the porch shelf, the kind of place where old batteries and mismatched keys go to wait for relevance. Inside, the clock on the wall still reads 3:17. She doesn't look at it. She places the bread on the counter, unwraps it slowly. The kitchen is still quiet, still empty. But something has shifted. Maybe it's the smell of fresh bread or the way the sunlight hits the window at a slightly different angle. Or maybe it's just a square of fabric folded once, then twice, waiting to be remembered. Fade to next scene. Exterior backyard, late afternoon, the sky has turned the color of pale copper. Warm light drapes over the backyard like a faded quilt. The grass is patchy, dry in places, soft in others. A rake leans against the fence. Nearby, a rusted watering can lies on its side, its handle broken clean off. June steps outside with a purpose, sleeves rolled, gloves in one hand, a small box of seeds in the other. She surveys the yard like someone facing an overgrown memory, messy but still hers. She kneels near the edge of the garden bed and begins pulling weeds. Her motions are steady, precise. She hums just once a quiet note, almost accidental, then goes still. A sound, barely there. A breath, held too long behind wooden walls. June turns her head slightly toward the old storage shed at the edge of the yard. The door isn't open, but something in the air shifts attention, the kind you feel before thunder, even if the sky stays blue. She stands, brushes dirt from her knees, and walks toward the shed. The padlock dangles unlatched. That alone is enough. She doesn't knock. She doesn't raise her voice, she just opens the door. Inside it's dark, but the slats in the wood let sunlight leak through in thin lines. The smell of soil and rust lingers. In the far corner, curled between a broken chair and an old tire, is a boy, maybe 9. Thin, alert, filthy, not panicked, not hiding, just there. Their eyes meet. He doesn't flinch, neither does she. June doesn't move closer. She stays just inside the threshold, hands in her coat pockets. Her voice is calm when it comes, not gentle, not sharp, just even. "If you're going to stay in there," she says, "don't break anything." The boy stares, no response. She waits another moment, then pulls the door closed again slowly without a slam. Back in the house, she pours a glass of water, takes 2 sips, puts it on the porch railing. Leaves the screen door propped open just enough. She goes back to the yard. The rest of the evening passes without ceremony. June finishes the weeding, plants 2 rows of seed, though the soil's not ideal. Washes her gloves at the outdoor sink, watches a single bird fly overhead and vanish behind the tree line. Later, after the sun slips away, she lights the porch lamp. It hums, then holds steady. Inside the house, she moves through her routine. Kettle on, mug out, radio on low. From the kitchen window, the shed is just a shadow. She doesn't look again. But the glass of water on the railing is empty. She notices that much. That night, she doesn't lock the back door. She doesn't leave it wide open either. Just enough for a breeze to get in, or maybe a thought. She falls asleep in the armchair under the broken clock, its hands still frozen at 3:17. Into her kitchen, evening. The house is quiet in the way empty places often are, not hollow, but listening. June moves through the kitchen like she's done it for years. Each motion measured, each sound familiar. She opens a cabinet. The hinges squeak, the plate clinks. She lays a cutting board on the counter, slices a tomato with care as if the fruit deserves patience. The knife is sharp, her hand steady. She doesn't look at the back door, but it's unlocked. A pot simmers on the stove, vegetable stew, thick and unassuming. She stirs slowly. The rhythm of it fills the space where music might have been. She sets the table, 1 fork, 1 spoon, 1 knife, then she pauses. Her hand hovers over the drawer. She opens it again, takes out another set, places them down on the opposite side of the table. No dramatic pause, no hesitation, just the quiet decision of someone who expects nothing, but leaves room anyway. 2 plates, 2 glasses. She ladles the stew. Steam curls upward like something alive. She slices bread, sets 2 pieces on each plate. Folds a napkin not perfectly, but neatly. It's the kind of setting that says, "You don't owe me your story, just sit and eat." A breeze slips through the open back door, the curtain shifts, nothing more. Then bare feet on wood, soft, careful. The boy appears at the edge of the doorway. His clothes are still dirty, hair tousled and tangled, but his posture isn't that of a trespasser. More like someone trying not to wake a sleeping house. June doesn't look up. She sets the pitcher of water on the table, then sits in her chair. The boy hovers. Still, she says nothing. After a moment, he moves slowly into the room and lowers himself into the opposite chair. The legs scrape softly against the floor. His eyes flick toward her, then away. He picks up the spoon but doesn't eat right away. June begins without a word. They eat in silence. He mirrors her rhythm, slow, efficient, quiet. He breaks the bread into tiny pieces before chewing. Halfway through, he takes a sip of water, glancing at her again. She doesn't meet his eyes. She just eats, not fast, not slow, just enough. Outside, the cicadas begin to hum. The last light drains from the horizon, pulling long shadows across the kitchen floor. After the plates are mostly cleared, the boy wipes his mouth with the napkin and folds it neatly, precisely, then sets it beside the plate. June notices. She doesn't comment. She rises, picks up her dishes, walks to the sink. He watches, then without a word, he picks up his own and follows. He places the plate in the sink carefully, as if he's unsure of the rules, but wants to get them right. She rinses both plates, doesn't hand him a towel, doesn't say thank you. But she doesn't stop him from helping either. Later, she brings out a blanket and sets it on the couch. She doesn't say it's his. She doesn't say good night. She just folds the edges over once. Then she turns off the lights. The boy stands there unsure. She walks down the hall to her room. The soft creak of the floor under his feet is the only answer. The clock in the living room still reads 3:17. It doesn't tick. It just waits. Fade to next scene. Exterior, backyard. Early morning. The sun hasn't fully committed. It hangs low behind thin clouds, casting a pale gray light across the yard. The kind of morning that doesn't declare anything, just quietly begins. June stands by the kitchen window, coffee in hand. The curtain is drawn back slightly. She watches the backyard like someone reading a book they already know the ending to, but still need to finish. The shed door is open, not wide, just enough. She doesn't smile, but she doesn't sigh either. A few minutes later, she steps outside, work gloves in one hand, a small garden spade in the other. The boy is sitting on the ground by the fence, pulling at grass like he's not sure if it's meant to be there. He doesn't look up when she approaches. Dirt smudges the side of his face. His clothes haven't changed. June crouches beside him. She plants the spade in the soil. "You do this row," she says. "I'll do the other." He glances over just enough to register she's not asking. Then he looks down and gets to work. He doesn't know what he's doing. He pulls weeds by the tops, not the roots. His fingers slip on the stems. He jabs at the dirt instead of loosening it. June doesn't correct him. She works beside him in silence, steady and sure. Her movements are practiced. His are frantic. Within minutes, his hands are dirty, then red. He pauses, looks down at his palms. Small blisters are forming where skin rubbed raw against wood. He hides them under his thighs when she glances his way. She doesn't mention it. They keep going, side by side. 2 rows of earth being turned, not quickly but faithfully. Birds chirp in a nearby tree. A lawnmower hums faintly 2 houses down. The town is waking slowly, but here in this yard it still feels suspended, like time forgot to move. After a while, June stands, wipes her hands on her jeans. She heads toward the porch without a word. The boy watches her go. He stays sitting. Then she returns, a small bowl in one hand. Inside, cool water and a washcloth. She kneels, holds it out. He hesitates, then reaches for the cloth with one hand, but she gently stops him. "Let me." Her voice isn't soft, but it's not sharp either. It's just enough. She wraps his hand in the cloth, wipes gently. The boy winces. She slows down. The silence between them is not awkward. It's the kind that has room for breath. His other hand is worse. He tries to hide it again, but she sees. He gives up trying to pretend. She cleans that one too. When she finishes, she sets the bowl beside him, stands, walks toward the house. He sits there for a while, then quietly picks up the spade again and keeps working. Inside the house, the wooden clock above the fireplace still reads 3:17. It has not moved. but something else has. Interior living room, early evening. The light inside the house is soft and orange, not from the sun, but from the lamp in the corner with its crooked shade and dust-lined base. Outside, wind moves through the trees, whispering but never shouting. June is sitting on the floor with a photo album open in front of her, not looking through it, just holding it in her lap like something once warm that's long since cooled. The boy sits on the couch, legs curled beneath him, silent. He's cleaned up a bit, washed hands, damp hair, a clean t-shirt too big for him. He didn't ask for it. She just left it folded on the back of the chair. He wore it anyway. The TV is off. No music. Just the hum of the fridge and the sound of pages turning slow, not continuous. June sets the album aside. Not closed, just set down. She rises, walks to the shelf near the radio, runs her fingers along the row of cassette tapes. Each one labeled in faded handwriting: math lessons, read-alouds, children's songs. She picks one, inserts it into the tape deck, presses play. A woman's voice, her own but younger, comes through the speaker. Warm, confident, teaching a classroom how to spell the word tomorrow. The boy looks up. "That was me," she says. "I used to teach first grade." She doesn't look at him as she speaks. Her eyes stay on the wall, on nothing in particular. "For a long time," she adds. "Then I didn't." The tape plays on now, children singing in a slightly off-key chorus, a happy tune, something about animals on a farm. June presses stop. The room returns to its stillness. "I don't keep most of them," she says, "but some things you keep, even when you don't use them anymore." She turns the radio dial slightly to the right. Static, then a burst of violin, familiar, too familiar. Her hand freezes for a second, then moves again. The violin vanishes into a crackle of noise. She switches off the radio completely. The boy says nothing, doesn't move, just watches. June walks back toward the chair, sits with both feet flat on the ground, hands in her lap. "There was a time," she says, "when my mornings started with crayons and tiny shoes that were always untied. A bell rang. I talked all day." Her voice is level, matter-of-fact, but there's a texture beneath it, like something folded too many times. "I liked the quiet when the kids left," she adds, "but I hated it when it stayed." She looks at the photo album. Still open. One page with no picture, just an empty frame where something used to be. She doesn't close it. The boy shifts slightly on the couch. Not toward her, not away, just a small adjustment, as if matching her stillness. June picks up a cup of tea gone cold, takes a sip anyway. The clock above the fireplace still reads 3:17. She glances at it just once, then turns away. Exterior front porch, midday. The sun sits high, but it's not hot. Just enough warmth to make the shadows shrink. Wind carries the smell of pine and distant laundry soap. The porch boards creak once, not from age, but as if bracing for company. June sits on the porch rail, legs crossed at the ankle, sharpening a small garden knife with long, smooth strokes. A bowl of green beans rests on her right. She hasn't snapped them yet. She's just waiting. From down the gravel road comes the crunch of tires. A tan pickup truck rolls slowly toward the house. It stops without honking. June doesn't stand. She just tilts her head slightly, as if listening to a story she already knows. The driver's door opens. Ray Henderson steps out, mid-60s, broad-shouldered but shrinking slightly with the years. His flannel shirt is clean but old, sleeves rolled to the elbows. He carries a canvas bag and a weariness he doesn't speak about. He walks up the steps and stands a moment before saying anything. "You didn't answer your phone," he says. June keeps sharpening the knife. "Didn't ring," she replies. A pause. I brought you that bee balm root you wanted. She nods once. Put it by the steps. Ray sets the bag down. A hum of cicadas fills the silence between them. From inside the house comes a soft shuffle. Not loud, not careless. Ray turns his head, catching the glimpse of movement through the screen door, the boy watching from behind the frame. Ray doesn't speak right away, then quietly, as if trying not to disturb the air. That yours? June pauses the blade mid-sharpen. No, Ray studies her. He been here long? She shrugs. Long enough to know which drawer the forks go in. A beat. He's got Mary's eyes, Ray says. June says nothing. I know it's impossible, he adds quickly. Couldn't be, but, he takes a breath. Mary Collins stitched like that. Those tiny crosses on the corner. June's sharpening slows. Her shoulders don't rise or fall. But something else shifts, so slight it might only be noticed by someone who's known her 30 years. Kid had a handkerchief, Ray continues. Was folded neat. Initials MC. June's jaw tightens, almost imperceptibly. She wipes the blade clean on her jeans and sets it down. You still talk to her folks? She asks. Ray shakes his head. Moved south, sold the house, never really came back. He looks toward the screen door again. The boy's gone. Ray clears his throat. I know what it looks like. Probably just coincidence, but if there's even a sliver of... June cuts in, not with anger, but finality. He eats what I cook. He doesn't break things. That's all I need to know. Ray looks down at the porch wood. His boot shifts a flake of old paint. I could ask a friend, quiet-like, just to check. She doesn't answer. He picks up his bag again. Put the root in water soon, he says. Don't want it to wilt. As he turns to go, June finally speaks, not loudly but deliberately. He's not a puzzle. Ray stops. Not something to solve, she says. He's just here. Ray nods once, then walks back to the truck. As the engine starts and the dust begins to rise, June picks up a green bean and snaps it clean in half. The sound is sharp but satisfying. Inside the house, the boy sits at the kitchen table, feet not touching the floor, folding the same handkerchief again, edge to edge, careful and slow. On the mantel above him, the clock still reads 3:17. But the wind, faint through the screen door, seems to stir something unseen, fade to next scene, into a living room, late afternoon. Light from the west window cuts long and gold across the floor, warming patches of worn wood. Dust floats through the air like slow snow, undisturbed and delicate. The house is quiet but not empty. June is in the kitchen, rinsing out a cloth. The radio is off. The kettle is cold. The world for a moment holds its breath. The boy stands on the armrest of the old sofa, one hand braced against the mantel. His eyes are locked on the wooden clock above the fireplace. It's old, round, and quiet. The hands, as always, are frozen at 3:17. He reaches up. His fingers don't quite touch the face at first. He shifts, steps onto the top of the couch. For a second he wobbles but catches himself. He presses gently against the glass, as if checking for breath behind it. Then he opens the small front latch, revealing the brass winding key tucked neatly inside its compartment. He hesitates, then takes it. Behind him, the sound of water draining down the sink. He places the key into the mechanism. Slowly, carefully, he begins to wind. Tick. It's faint. Then again. Tick, tick. The second hand moves forward, a small sound, subtle, but unmistakable. The kind of sound that doesn't demand to be heard, but insists on being felt. June walks in just as he steps down from the couch. She stops at the doorway. The clock ticks 5, 6, 7 seconds. Then, tick, stop. The sound disappears. The second hand jerks, then stills. The boy turns around, face calm, not disappointed, not confused, just observant. It worked for a bit, he says. June looks up at the clock. It's quiet again. She nods. It does that sometimes. He looks at the key in his hand, then sets it gently on the mantel right where it came from. "I didn't want to break it," he says. "You didn't." She walks past him into the room, wipes her hands with the cloth. She doesn't mention the couch, doesn't scold him for standing on it, doesn't say thank you either. He looks back at the clock, still staring. "Now it has a sound again," he says quietly. June pauses halfway to folding the cloth. He adds, more certain, "Even if it doesn't move, it has a sound now." She looks at him then, not startled, not moved, just seeing. He returns to the couch, sits where he stood just moments ago. His legs swing off the edge, too short to touch the floor. She places the folded cloth on the table. The quiet stretches, not heavy, just long enough to settle into the bones. The room holds something it didn't before, not noise, not motion, just presence. Later, as dusk begins to climb up the walls and the corners grow soft, June sets a new log in the fireplace, not for warmth, but for company. The boy watches the unlit wood, then asks, "Does it chime?" She tilts her head. "Not in years." He leans back, folds his arms. "Maybe it just needs someone to listen." She doesn't answer, but she stays in the room a little longer than usual. The clock stays quiet, but on the mantel the winding key sits exactly where it should be, and this time no one closes the compartment. Fade to black. Exterior. Backyard. Late morning. The sun rests higher today, steady but soft. A breeze moves through the backyard, just strong enough to stir the laundry pinned to the line. A white shirt flaps gently like it's trying to remember how to dance. June kneels near the back fence, pulling weeds that have returned overnight. Some roots give easily, others cling like they've been there forever. A crunch of footsteps on gravel behind her. The boy stands with a small clay pot in his hands. Something green pokes out from the soil, frail but determined. He doesn't say anything at first, just waits until she acknowledges him. June glances up. "What's that?" "A plant," he says plainly. She arches an eyebrow. "It was behind the shed," he adds. "I think it wants to live." She doesn't smile, but her eyes pause on the sprout for a beat longer than necessary. He steps closer, holding the pot like it's breakable, not the clay, but the life inside it. "I want to plant it," he says. "Somewhere it can stay." June wipes her hands on her pants, stands slowly. She surveys the yard. "Not much soil worth growing in," she says. He looks around. "That's okay." She studies him, then nods toward a corner of the yard, dry, cracked, half in shade. "Try over there," she says. "That patch hasn't held anything in years." He heads to it without hesitation, kneels down, sets the pot aside, begins digging with his hands, no shovel, no gloves. June watches from a distance, arms folded loosely. She doesn't stop him, doesn't help. The boy works slowly, clearing out a circle of earth. He scoops out pebbles, flattens the ground, crumbles the dry dirt between his fingers. Then he turns the pot upside down, cupping the plant as it slides out. A single stem, 2 leaves and thin roots like threads of memory. He places it into the hole, covers it gently, presses the soil down with his palms. It stands barely. June walks over, stares down at the tiny green thing poking out from the earth. "What is it?" she asks. "I don't know," he says. She tilts her head. "Then why are you planting it?" He shrugs. "It asked." She doesn't respond. He pats the dirt one last time, then wipes his hands on the back of his pants. Dust rises, settles on his cheeks, in his hair. He stands back, looks proud but not loud about it. "I named it," he says. She gives him a look. He points to the sprout. "Button." June's mouth opens slightly. Not in protest, not in confusion, just surprise. He adds, "It's small but strong, like buttons on coats. She nods once, not in approval but in understanding. She walks back toward the porch, returns with a small tin cup, fills it from the rain barrel, hands it to him. "Don't drown it," she says. He takes it carefully, pours slowly. A dark ring of wet earth spreads around the base of the plant. Button. The wind moves again, this time softer, like it's passing through on tiptoe. The boy sits down cross-legged beside the sprout, watching it as if waiting for something to happen. June returns to her weeding. Neither of them speaks for a long time. The sun rises higher, casting longer shadows. The laundry flaps, then stills. Later, as clouds begin to gather near the horizon, the boy comes inside, dirt under his nails, mud on his knees. June glances at the clock, still 3:17. Still waiting. She says, "Plants take time." He nods. "So do people," he says. She doesn't answer, but she leaves the back door open just a little wider that evening. Exterior. Front porch. Midday. The sky is clear, too clear. A kind of quiet hangs in the air that doesn't feel natural. Even the birds seem to be holding their breath. June sits on the porch steps, a small basket of laundry beside her. She folds each shirt slowly, smoothing the creases as if every wrinkle holds a memory. The boy is somewhere out back, humming to the sprout he named Button. A car pulls up, new silver tires, too clean for this town. June doesn't move. The door opens, then closes with a soft, efficient click. Heels on gravel. A figure approaches, a woman in her 40s, neat blouse, clipboard hugged to her chest. She carries a bag that says government without the logo. June stands, not defensive, just present. The woman offers a tight smile. "June Carter? That's me. I'm from Child Services, just doing a routine check after an anonymous tip." She doesn't wait for a response. "May I come in?" June wipes her hands on her pants. "We can talk out here." The woman hesitates, then nods. Opens her folder, scans something. "We've received word that a minor may be staying here, male, underage, possibly unsupervised." June tilts her head slightly. "That'd be my nephew, mother's side." The woman scribbles something. "Name?" June answers, too quickly to be natural. "Miles." The woman glances up. "Last name?" June folds a shirt. "Collins." The pen pauses. "You said mother's side." June doesn't blink. "Yes?" A silence stretches just long enough to matter. "Is Miles here now?" the woman asks. "He's outside," June replies. "Helping with the garden. I'd like to see him if you don't mind." June doesn't move. He's not great with strangers. This won't take long. June holds the woman's gaze, not sharp, not pleading, just firm. After a moment, the woman sighs, tucks the clipboard into her bag, and reaches in for a card. She holds it out. "If there's anything you need, resources, support, whatever, we're not here to make trouble." June takes the card but doesn't look at it, just slips it into her back pocket. "I'll let you know," she says. The woman looks around the porch, notes the folded clothes, the tidy space, the worn but swept boards. She nods once, tight. "I'll be back in 2 weeks." She turns and walks toward her car, gets in, drives off without spinning gravel. June waits until the car disappears down the road. Then she exhales. It's the first full breath she's taken since the engine pulled in. The screen door creaks open behind her. The boy stands there, face cautious. "Was she looking for me?" he asks. June nods. "Did you tell her?" "I told her you were mine," she says. He looks down at his bare feet, wiggles his toes. "Do I have to leave?" June kneels, folds the last shirt, and places it on the stack. "Not today." He watches her for a long moment, then steps forward and places a small stone on top of the shirt pile. Round, smooth, pocket-worn. "She didn't scare me," he says. June looks at the stone, picks it up, turns it once in her hand, then pockets it alongside the business card. Good, she says. Behind them, the wind picks up just enough to rustle the laundry line. Somewhere in the yard, a sprout shifts gently in the dirt. Still standing, exterior, back porch, early evening. The light is low, syrupy, casting everything in amber. Crickets have started their song early. The air smells faintly of damp soil and old pine. June sits on the back porch, a blanket over her knees, a cup of tea cooling in her hands. Her eyes are fixed on the tree line, where the light breaks into shadows. Ray leans against the porch rail, arms crossed. He's not facing her, just watching the backyard where the boy is nowhere in sight. You kept the card, he says. June doesn't answer right away. I saw it, he adds, quieter. On the fridge. She takes a slow sip, though the tea has long since gone cold. Didn't mean to spy, Ray says, then shrugs. Just looked. June nods once, as if that makes sense. Ray waits, then says, You planning to call? Still no answer. He turns toward her. What are you preparing for, June? A long breath passes between them. June doesn't look at him when she finally speaks. Her voice is low, not cracking, just steady like it's been said 1,000 times in her head, but never out loud. There was a fire. Ray blinks. At the camp, she says, 3 summers ago. She sets the teacup down beside her. The cabin's caught fast. Old wood, no sprinklers. They said lightning, but who knows? I wasn't there. She lifts her hands briefly as if to explain, but no gesture comes. They called at midnight, she continues, said they were still searching, still hoping. Ray says nothing. They found most of the kids, all but 2. Her voice tightens slightly. One of them was mine. Ray's breath catches. Not loud, but enough. They said the heat was so strong it could erase bone. She stops, swallows, but they never found her, not even a trace of cloth. She lifts the teacup again, but doesn't drink. Ray leans forward, elbows on his knees now, the wood creaking softly beneath him. You never told anyone, he says. There wasn't anything to say. Ray looks at her, really looks. I thought you just stopped, he says. After everything, I thought you got tired. I did, she replies. The backyard is still. The silence between them carries weight, but not tension, more like 2 people holding opposite ends of the same memory. Ray runs a hand over his mouth. I remember the paper ran the names. I didn't put it together. I asked them not to use ours, said she hated being stared at, even in pictures. She closes her eyes for a second, then opens them again. I waited. For months, every creak in the hallway, every knock, I thought maybe she got out, forgot who she was, would come back. Ray nods slowly, but no one came, June says. They sit for a long time, just breathing. Then Ray says, quietly, You think that boy is her? June shakes her head, firm but kind. He's not. Ray looks confused. But he's not her, she says again. But he's here. That's all I care about. Ray nods, like he's trying to understand something that doesn't fit neatly into words. He deserves to stay, she says, even if just until he's ready to leave. Ray studies her face, sees the cracks that were never visible before. Not broken, just weathered, honest. He stands, picks up his cap from the rail. I won't say anything, he says. I know, she replies. As he steps off the porch, June calls softly. Ray? He turns. She liked puzzles. Used to hide pieces on purpose so I'd never finish them without her. Ray smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Sounds like someone I would have liked. June nods. She'd have liked you too. The door creaks as she goes inside. Ray stands alone for a moment, hands in his pockets, looking out over the yard. Near the fence line, the sprout named Button catches the light. Still growing. Still here. In 2. Bedroom. Night. The room is dim, lit only by the warm flicker of a small bedside lamp. Shadows stretch gently across the floor, soft and long like old lullabies. The wind rattles a loose screen outside, but the air inside stays still, hushed. The boy lies curled in the twin bed pushed against the far wall. His skin is flushed, damp at the hairline. His breaths come shallow and uneven, lips dry. A bowl of cool water sits on the nightstand. A folded cloth rests across his forehead, already warmed by his fever. June sits beside him, not touching, just present. In her lap is a worn paperback, corners curled, spine cracked. The kind of book that's been read too many times to remember the first. She reads softly, not for him to understand, not to soothe, just to stay awake. The words fall slow and low like rain against a window. She pauses, dips the cloth again. Wringing it out takes more care than expected. She doesn't want to wake him, but she doesn't want to leave him either. The new cloth lands gently against his brow. He shifts but doesn't wake. Across the room on the wall, the wooden clock ticks. Tick, tick. It's faint but steady. Earlier that evening, before the fever, the boy had tried winding it again, this time without saying anything. June had watched from the doorway, unseen. He'd stood on the arm of the couch, careful now, like he respected the ritual. When the ticking started, he smiled to himself and walked away. It's been ticking ever since. She glances toward the hallway, then checks the time. 8:43. It had stopped again this morning at 3:17. Now it's past 9. That's something. Back in the room, the boy coughs, a small sound, dry, weak. June leans forward and brushes hair from his forehead. Her touch is light, practiced, like someone who once did this every night and thought she'd never do it again. She whispers, not a story, not a prayer, just a few words into the room. You're all right. Then quietly, you're staying. Not a promise. Not quite, but close. She returns to the book, reading more now to herself than to him. The night stretches, the fever climbs, then holds. June doesn't leave, she doesn't sleep, she reads, she cools the cloth. She watches his chest rise and fall like the tide, slow, uncertain, alive. The lamp flickers once, then steadies. From the living room, the ticking grows louder. Or maybe everything else just grows quieter. The clock has made it 5 full hours. It hasn't done that in years. June looks toward the hallway again. Something about the sound anchors her, makes the stillness feel earned, not empty. The boy stirs around 2:00 a.m., eyes half open. His lips move without sound. She leans in. "What is it?" she whispers. He doesn't answer, just drifts again. But his fingers, barely awake, find hers at the edge of the mattress. She doesn't pull away. When morning comes, the fever will break, the clock may stop again, but tonight everything holds, the time, the breath, the bond, and June stays where she is, awake, steady, and waiting for whatever comes next. Extorter small town, Main Street, late morning. The town is quiet, not from lack of people, but from the way people move here, slow, familiar, a little too observant. It's the kind of place where everyone nods, even when they don't want to say hello. June's truck pulls into a narrow parking space in front of the barber shop. She turns off the engine but doesn't move right away. Her hand rests on the key for a moment longer than necessary. The boy sits in the passenger seat, freshly washed hair still damp at the roots. He's wearing clean jeans one size too big and a sweatshirt with the sleeves rolled twice at the wrists, both from the local thrift store. "You ready?" she asks. He nods but doesn't move. She opens her door. He follows. As they step out, a breeze cuts through the street gentle, but enough to carry dust and memory. The barbershop bell rings as they enter. It's small, clean, lined with faded photographs and worn leather chairs. The man behind the counter looks up, startled for only a second before catching himself. "Well," he says. "Been a while, June." She nods. "He needs a trim." The man looks at the boy, then back at her. He doesn't ask questions, just points to the chair. The boy climbs up slowly, eyes on the mirror but not on himself. June sits nearby, flipping through a magazine without reading it. Snip, snip. The scissors work quickly but gently. As the hair falls, the boy watches the pieces land on the floor like they belong to someone else. When it's done, the barber brushes off his shoulders and offers a small hand mirror. "You look sharp, kid." The boy stares at his reflection. Doesn't smile, but something in his posture shifts barely, like a thread pulling tighter. Outside, they walk 2 doors down to the general store. June picks a shirt from the rack, then another. She holds them up. The boy points to the dark blue one, plain soft. In line to pay, an older woman behind them clears her throat. "That your grandson?" she asks. June turns slightly. "Nephew." The woman nods slowly. Her eyes linger on the boy a moment longer than necessary. The cashier rings them up. Doesn't smile. Doesn't speak beyond what's required. Back on the street, June and the boy step into the sunlight again. It's warmer now, but the air still carries something cool underneath. Like people aren't sure whether to welcome what they see or wait for it to disappear. 2 men on a bench glance up. One whispers something to the other. The boy notices. June notices too. She puts a hand lightly on his shoulder. Not to guide, just to let him know she's there. They return to the truck. Once inside, the boy looks out the window, watching the people as they watch him. "Why do they stare?" he asks. June doesn't start the engine yet. "They're curious," she says, "and maybe afraid of what they don't understand." The boy nods once, like he's heard that before, but never quite believed it. "They don't know you," she adds. "That's not your fault." He doesn't say anything. She looks over. "You don't have to prove anything to them." After a moment, he turns toward her. "I didn't like the mirror." "Why not?" "I don't remember my face from before." June doesn't rush to respond. "That's all right," she says softly. "You get to decide who you are now." The boy looks forward again. She starts the engine. The truck hums back to life. Gravel shifts under the tires as they pull away from the curb. Leaving the stairs behind, the blue shirt sits in a paper bag between them. Outside the window, the town rolls past in slow motion, quiet, uncertain, but still watching. Exterior post office, mid-morning. A single flag flutters above the low brick building. The sky is cloudless still. A dog sleeps on the sidewalk across the street, tail twitching once in a dream. No one's rushing. No one ever does here. Ray parks his truck and sits for a moment, fingers tapping the steering wheel. A padded envelope rests on the seat beside him. Sealed, unmarked, quiet. He glances at it like it might speak, then reaches for it. Interior post office, continuous. The place is nearly empty. A fan hums overhead, doing more noise than cooling. Behind the counter, a woman in her 50s chews gum slowly, flipping through forms. She doesn't look up as Ray approaches. "Need a tracking number," he says. She takes the envelope, weighs it, scans it in silence. "You want express or just standard?" He hesitates. "Standard's fine." She punches a few more keys. "Anything fragile, hazardous, or perishable?" "No." "Return address?" Ray pauses. "Leave it blank." The woman raises an eyebrow but says nothing. He pays in cash. She prints the receipt, hands it over without looking him in the eye. He nods, thanks her under his breath, and walks out. Exterior, post office. Moments later. Back outside, the sun feels hotter. He stands by his truck, squinting into the distance for no reason. Maybe just to keep from thinking. Ray climbs in and rests his hands on the wheel. The envelope is gone, but the weight is not. Interior, Ray's workshop. Later. The workshop is cluttered but clean. Wood shavings dust the floor and half-finished chairs line the walls like sleeping animals. The air smells like cedar and varnish. Ray sits at his workbench, rubbing a cloth over a curved backrest. Not sanding, not staining, just moving his hand in slow, familiar circles. The sample he'd taken it from the comb June left at the house weeks ago. A few strands of the boy's hair, easy to miss. He hadn't told her. Hadn't told anyone. Not because he didn't trust her, but because something in him still didn't sit right. Not with the way the boy moved. Not with the eyes. Not with the initials stitched into that old handkerchief. MC. Ray sets down the cloth, leans back in his chair. He looks at the calendar on the wall. A pencil mark circles next Tuesday. The earliest the results might come. He isn't sure what he wants them to say. Outside, a wind picks up, rustling the oak trees just beyond the window. Ray thinks of June, the way she moves slower now, but with more certainty. The way she folds silence like it's part of the conversation. The way she looks at the boy not like she's waiting for answers, but like she's already made peace with not needing them. He picks up a picture frame from the corner of the desk. A photo, years old. Him, June, and her daughter. All smiles, bright sunlight, picnic blanket between them. The girl had been maybe sick gap in her front teeth, eyes too sharp for her age. He sets the photo back down face first. The fan creaks overhead. The wood groans as it settles in the summer heat. Ray stands, walks to the open window, and watches nothing for a long time. He doesn't tell anyone what he mailed. Not that day, not the next. Interior kitchen, afternoon. Flour covers everything. The countertop, the floor, a streak across the boy's cheek. The bowl they're mixing from wobbles with each stir, and the wooden spoon is clearly losing the battle. June stands beside him, sleeves rolled, apron tied messily at the waist. Her hands are steady, but her face says she's trying not to laugh. "You're beating it like it owes you money," she says. The boy stops mid-stir, glances up sheepishly. "It's thick." "That's the point." He leans in and sniffs the batter. "Smells good. Don't let it fool you. It's still raw." He dips a finger in anyway. June opens her mouth to scold him, but doesn't. He's already licking it clean, making a face that says he both regrets it and might do it again. They continue mixing, slowly now, more rhythm than rush. The sun through the kitchen window lands on the counter like a warm hand. Dust particles float between them. A breeze nudges the lace curtain gently. June moves to grease the baking tray. The boy scoops dollops of dough onto it. Uneven, too large. She doesn't fix them. He wipes his hands on the apron, then hesitates. "I was wondering," he starts, voice quiet. June doesn't look up. "Yeah? What should I call you?" She pauses. "You've just been saying hey or nothing at all," she says, rinsing her hands at the sink. "I know," he mutters, "but it feels weird." She dries her hands, turns around slowly, leans against the counter. He's standing there, arms awkward like he's suddenly aware of his own elbows. "I mean, you're not really my grandma." June raises an eyebrow. "Thank God. But you're not just lady either." "No, that's reserved for people who slam doors." He laughs under his breath, then says without much ceremony, "Can I just call you June?" She watches him for a beat, expression unreadable, then shrugs. "Could be worse." He waits. She softens, barely noticeable, like a leaf relaxing in water. "Better than calling me something I'm not," she says. His shoulders drop a little, like he's been holding something tight and just now let go. "Okay," he says. "Thanks." She turns back to the tray, slides it into the oven. "Now that we've settled that, you're on dish duty," she says. "What? Why me?" "Because I'm the one with flour in my eyebrows." He picks up the sponge and starts rinsing the bowl. June watches from the side, arms crossed, pretending not to. The kitchen is still messy, but it feels good, lived in, like something new that's pretending to be old and pulling it off. From the living room, the clock ticks, still moving. Outside, the wind shifts. The curtain dances again. And the name June stays in the air longer than it should, like it's found its place there. Exterior, rooftop, mid-morning. The sky is pale and wide, with thin clouds drifting like worn-out memories. The air is cooler than usual, the kind of morning that whispers rain but doesn't promise it. June stands on a short ladder leaning against the back porch. A hammer in one hand, a shingle under her arm. Her balance is decent, but her knees don't move like they used to. The boy stands below, holding the ladder. "You sure you don't want me to do it?" he asks. "I've been fixing this roof since before you were born," she says, voice firm. "Exactly." She glares down at him. "Hold the ladder." He does. For a while, everything's fine until she shifts her weight to the left and the ladder wobbles. Just a little. Enough. Her foot slips. The hammer clatters down the rungs. The ladder shifts and June falls sideways, not fast, not loud, but sudden enough. She lands hard on her left side with a muffled thud. The boy yells, "June!" He rushes over. She's already sitting up, gritting her teeth, pressing a hand to her ribs. "I'm okay," she mutters. "Just got the wind knocked out." But she isn't okay, not really. The boy doesn't ask, doesn't wait. He picks up the hammer and heads straight for the ladder. "Don't you dare," she warns. He climbs anyway. His movements aren't graceful, but they're fast, too determined. He reaches the top, crouches low, and starts lining up the shingle the way he's seen her do it. From the ground, June struggles to her feet. "Get down," she says. "Now." "I've got it." "Get down!" The boy freezes. This isn't the usual June voice. It isn't tired or calm or careful. It's scared. "Why?" he asks. Her voice wavers just enough to break something open. "Because I don't want to lose anyone else." The words drop like stones. The boy stays still, hammer in hand, halfway through aligning the nail. He looks down at her. Really looks. She's not angry. She's terrified. Not of heights, not of roofs, not even of him, of loss, of another space at the table that goes quiet. He starts to say something, then doesn't. He climbs down step by step. When his feet hit the ground, June doesn't move. "I could have done it," he says softly. "I know," she says. "That's not the point." She walks past him slowly, hands still at her ribs. She sits on the porch step, breathing shallow. He sits beside her. They don't speak for a while. The wind moves gently across the yard. Button, the small sprout, sways just enough to stay standing. Finally, he asks, "Was it your daughter? The one you lost?" She nods. "Campfire?" "No. Cabin fire." He nods, like he understands, even if he doesn't. "I didn't think you'd care," he says. She looks at him. "About you?" He shrugs. "About anyone, you don't say much." "I say enough." He thinks. Then, "You called me family when that lady came by." "I did." "You meant it?" She doesn't hesitate. "More than I meant most things." The boy leans back, eyes on the roof above them. "I'll stay off the ladder," he says. June smirks. "For now." They sit a moment longer. The porch boards creak. The wind carries the faintest smell of old rain on warm wood. June stands slowly. "Help me inside. I need ice and dignity." He smiles small, real, and for the first time in days, June doesn't feel like she's keeping him alive. She feels like he's keeping her steady. Interior living room, late afternoon. The sky outside is turning the color of wet clay. A soft wind nudges the wind chime by the window. Its sound is delicate, barely there. June sits in her usual chair, a knit blanket over her legs, a mug of tea in her hands. She's not reading, not sleeping, just there. The boy lies on the rug, flipping through an old picture book. He isn't really reading either, just tracing shapes with his finger. The clock ticks, still alive. The front door creaks open without a knock. Ray steps in. He removes his hat, dusts his boots on the mat, and walks into the living room with the same steady quiet he always carries. June looks up. Ray nods. "Didn't mean to intrude." "You never do," she says. The boy offers a small wave. Ray returns it. In his hand is an envelope, white, crisp, sealed. He holds it not like it's important, but like it might burn. He walks to the fireplace, pauses, then sets it gently on the mantel. No one asks what it is, no one has to. Ray lingers a second, then steps back. He clears his throat. "It came this morning." June doesn't respond. The boy looks up at the envelope, then back down to his book. Ray glances at June. "Do you want to know?" She studies the tea in her mug as if the answer might be floating inside. Then, finally, "I thought I did, but now I'm not sure." Ray nods as if he understands more than he says. "I didn't open it either." She looks at him, really looks. "That mean you're done guessing?" Ray shrugs. "I guess I'm done needing to know." A pause. Heavy, but not tense. The boy stands and walks over to the fireplace. He stares at the envelope. "Is that about me?" Ray answers softly, "Could be." The boy tilts his head. "Does it change anything?" June says, "Only if you open it." He watches her. "Do you want me to?" She shakes her head. He walks back to the rug, lies down again. Ray moves to the window, watches the trees swaying just beyond the glass. No one moves toward the envelope. It stays there, quiet, untouched, like a question that's lost its urgency. Later, June rises to stoke the fire. She adds 2 logs, pokes the embers until they breathe. The envelope remains above the warmth, unopened, exterior backyard, early evening. The sun is low, gold spilling through the tall grass. The day has cooled, but the light still holds warmth. The sprout button is taller now. Not much, but enough to notice. 2 new leaves reach toward the sky, trembling slightly in the breeze. The boy crouches beside it, tracing a finger in the dirt around its base. He doesn't touch the plant, just watches it. Careful, quiet. June walks out onto the porch, drying her hands with a towel. She sees him from a distance, doesn't speak right away. He senses her but keeps looking forward, then softly, "I think I should go." The towel in her hand stills. She says nothing. The boy rises slowly, brushes dirt from his knees, turns to face her. "I don't think I belong here." June steps down the porch stairs, not fast, but without hesitation. "Why?" He shrugs. "I don't know, just a feeling." June studies his face. It's calm, not angry, not scared, just honest. "You're not in trouble," she says. "I know. You have a bed, meals, books, a clock that sometimes works." He smiles faintly. "I like all that." "Then what is it?" He hesitates, looks back at Button. "She's growing," he says. "That's good." Then, "But she doesn't need me to keep her standing anymore." June follows his gaze. The sprout sways but doesn't bend. "Maybe I'm supposed to help things start," he adds, "then move on." June exhales. Not sharply, just enough to steady herself. She walks over, crouches beside the plant too. For the first time, she places her hand lightly against its thin stalk, just one finger. I was never good at keeping things alive, she murmurs. You kept me. He says it without weight, without drama, just fact. She closes her eyes for a second, then, how far will you go? I don't know. She nods. You'll need shoes. I've got them. You'll need food. I'll take the bread you baked. A beat. She says, I'm not locking the door behind you. He nods once. I didn't think you would. They stand in silence. A bird calls from somewhere near the fence. Inside the house, the old wooden clock ticks, steady, confident, alive. Then, it stops. 7:28, June hears it, though she doesn't turn, just stares at the boy a moment longer. Don't leave tonight, she says. Eat with me one more time. He hesitates, then, okay. In Tour living room, minutes later. June sets the table without fuss. One plate, then another. She pours 2 glasses of water. No wine, no candles, just food, just now. The boy walks in, sits. They eat in silence. Not heavy, just full. Later, she hands him a paper bag with the bread inside. An apple. A small jar of peanut butter. A folded note she doesn't explain. He puts it in his backpack carefully. He doesn't cry. Neither does she. But something hangs in the air unspoken, grief shaped like choice. As he zips his bag, she speaks quietly. If you ever forget who you are. She stops. He looks up. She finishes. Remember button. He nods. That night, she leaves the porch light on, and the clock still paused at 7:28 doesn't tick again. Not yet. Exterior. Small town bus stop, early morning. The sky is gray with the kind of clouds that don't shout rain, just suggest it quietly. The streets are wet from something that passed earlier, and the world smells like wet pavement and tree bark. The boy sits alone on a wooden bench under the tin awning of the bus stop. His backpack is at his feet, zipped tight. His hair is damp. He doesn't shiver, but he doesn't look warm either. He stares down the road like it might answer something. The schedule board behind him is faded. The next bus isn't for another 20 minutes. A quiet crunch of gravel. He looks up. June stands a few steps away. She's holding a black umbrella. Open, no coat, just her regular sweater sleeves pushed up like always. They look at each other. She doesn't smile. He doesn't flinch. No one speaks for a beat. Then she walks forward and sets the umbrella beside him on the bench. It's gonna rain harder, she says. You'll need it. He glances at the umbrella. Thanks. June looks down the road, hands in her pockets. I came to see if you needed anything. I'm okay. She nods, doesn't question it. He adds, I didn't want to sneak away. I know. A pause. He gestures toward the street. Bus is late. They always are. He watches a car pass by. Then a bird land on the edge of the awning, shake water from its wings and fly off again. June sits down next to him. Not close, just enough. He says, I didn't know you'd come. She shrugs. Didn't know I would either. A long silence. Then the boy speaks again quietly. I kept thinking, if I stay, maybe I'm stopping something from happening. Maybe there's something else out there I'm supposed to find. June listens, not with her ears, with her stillness. I don't want to hurt you by leaving. You're not, she says. He looks at her. She continues, You're just doing what you need to do. That's not the same. He picks at the zipper of his bag. You sure? No, she says plainly, but that's how love works. A bus engine groans in the distance, still far but coming. He takes a breath. She stands. Then, like an afterthought, there's sandwiches in the side pocket and the cookies you liked. He blinks. You packed that? Didn't want you to eat gas station peanuts your first night out. He smiles. A small one, but it stays. She starts to walk away, then stops. I didn't follow you to bring you back, she says without turning. Just didn't want you waiting in the rain. The boy watches her walk down the sidewalk, slow and steady, until she disappears behind the trees. The umbrella leans against the bench beside him. He looks at it, then at the road. The wind picks up. He reaches for the umbrella and waits for the bus. Interior living room, late afternoon. The rain has passed. The light outside has that soft, rinsed look that only comes after a storm. It filters through the windows, casting long, pale reflections across the floorboards. June stands in the center of the living room, holding the wooden clock in both hands. It's heavier than it looks. Solid oak, warm from years of touch. Its face is stuck again still at 7:28. Not a tick, not a hum. She places it gently on the table. No cloth beneath it, no tools beside it, just the clock and the silence between them. For years she wound it out of habit. For months she tried to fix it, coax it back to life with small, careful turns. Now she lets it be. She steps back. The clock doesn't feel broken anymore. It just feels finished. She sits down slowly on the sofa. Her hands rest in her lap, empty, clean. The room is quiet but not hollow, just still. On the bookshelf, a framed photo leans slightly to one side. June straightens it. The girl in the photo grins with a missing tooth, arms around a scruffy dog. The background is all trees and sky. June smiles small and private. She walks to the kitchen, pours water into a small tin cup. Carries it out the back door barefoot. Exterior, backyard. Moments later, the earth is soft beneath her steps, soaked from the morning's rain. It squishes faintly with each footfall. She stops in front of Button. The once tiny sprout now has a thin stem just past her ankle in height. Its leaves are fuller, greener, reaching confidently. At the very top, a small white bud, closed but sure of itself. June crouches beside it. No gloves, no tools, just her hand, open. She doesn't touch it, just watches. She pours the water slowly into the dirt. The soil accepts it quietly. A breeze passes through, brushing her face, carrying the scent of something new. She looks up at the sky. No clouds now, just open blue. A blue she hadn't noticed in a long time. June sits down in the grass, her knees folding without protest. She rests back on her hands, looking not at the plant, not at the sky, but at the space in front of her. It isn't empty. It's waiting. And that's different. From inside the house, the clock does not tick. And for once, it doesn't need to. Exterior, front porch, early morning. The sky is pale gold, stretching wide and quiet. The sun hasn't fully crested the hills yet, but its light is already brushing against the tops of trees and the edges of rooftops. June opens the screen door with one hand, a mug of tea in the other. Her steps are slow, careful not from pain, just presence. She stands at the edge of the porch, breathing in the crisp air. The grass still glitters faintly with dew. The world hasn't woken yet, and she's grateful for it. Then she sees it. Something small, folded, placed neatly on the top step, right where the first bit of sunlight has begun to land. A cloth. She sets her mug down, crouches. It's a handkerchief. Clean, new. The stitching along the edge is uneven, done by hand, not by machine. A simple blue border, crooked but careful. And in one corner, just 2 words, "Thanks, Mom." Her breath catches, not in a dramatic way, but in the way that stops everything inside her for a beat. She touches the cloth like it might disappear. It's soft, still warm from the pocket it must have come from. She doesn't look around, doesn't run out into the yard, doesn't call his name. She knows he's gone. Not far, maybe, but gone. She stands slowly, folding the handkerchief once, then again. She holds it in both hands close to her chest, not clutching it. Just holding. Then she sits down on the top step. The mug beside her sends up small curls of steam. She looks out across the yard. The fence, the sprout, button, still standing, still growing. A bird flits past, carrying something small in its beak. The porch creaks as the wind nudges it. June leans back against the door frame. She doesn't cry. She doesn't speak. She just sits, handkerchief in hand, and lets the morning arrive. Exterior. Backyard. Mid-morning. 1 year later. The sun is high, casting soft golden light across the yard. The grass is thick and green now, dotted with clover and dandelions. A wooden bench has been added beneath the maple tree. Nearby, a circle of tiny chairs surrounds a patchwork rug. Laughter rings out light, overlapping, alive. June stands in the middle of the yard, holding a jar of paintbrushes in one hand and a paper cup of juice in the other. Her gray hair is pinned up messily. Her shirt has 2 smudges of green and a streak of yellow down one sleeve. 3 kids sit cross-legged on the rug, each bent over a small canvas. Another 2 are painting smooth rocks, their tongues poking out with concentration. A little girl in overalls chases a butterfly near the fence, arms outstretched like wings. And just a few feet from where June stands, button. Not a sprout anymore. A full bush now, chest high, green and full, wide-leafed and strong. From its center grow soft white blooms open and facing the sun. Some petals are still curled in, not ready yet, but getting there. June steps over and kneels beside it. She brushes dirt away from the base with her fingers. Someone, probably one of the kids, has placed 3 painted stones around the trunk. One reads, Hope. Another, Grow. The last, MC. She smiles. From the porch, Ray calls out, Juice refills? June waves him off. Top shelf of the fridge. He walks out carrying a tray of sliced fruit. He's grown a beard just enough to matter, and he walks with a small limp now after that latter incident in June. He grins as he sets the tray down on the bench. Kids behaving? June gestures around. Define behaving. He chuckles. A young boy tugs at June's shirt. Can we do clocks next? Clocks? She asks. You said we could make one out of cardboard. June laughs. I did say that. All right, finish your painting and then we'll build time from scratch. The boy runs off. Ray watches her for a second longer than necessary. You ever think you'd be doing this? June stands, brushing grass from her knees. Every day I didn't. They look out across the yard. The wind moves gently through the trees. One of the white petals from Button floats down, catches on Ray's shoulder. He picks it up, turns it in his fingers. What'll you call the next one? He asks, nodding toward the second sprout growing just behind Button. June tilts her head. Haven't met them yet, she says. A new sound breaks through the buzz of play footsteps approaching. They both turn. At the gate stands a girl, 9 or 10, dark curls, thin arms, eyes like questions. She holds something wrapped in a towel. You're the lady who fixes broken things, right? She asks. June raises an eyebrow. Depends what kind of broken. The girl unwraps the bundle, a wooden clock, old, cracked, not ticking. June takes a step forward. Let's have a look. Interior living room. Evening. The sky outside is blushing its way into dusk. Through the window, the white blooms on Button catch the last of the light, glowing faintly against the darkening yard. Inside the living room is warm, lamps lit, a faint smell of cinnamon from the bread June pulled out of the oven earlier. A stack of painted clocks rests on the table drying overnight. June sits on the couch, knitting something soft and blue. Her fingers move steadily without rush. Ray stands by the fireplace, his eyes on the mantel. The envelope is still there, unopened, still sealed, still waiting. He turns toward her gently. You ever gonna read it? June doesn't look up. I thought about it, she says. He waits. She loops another row of yarn. But then I realize something, she continues. I don't need the paper. Ray tilts his head. Why not? She sets the knitting aside and finally meets his eyes. Because I chose to believe it with my hands. Ray frowns slightly, not out of confusion but care. She touches her palm softly, like remembering something that isn't visible anymore. When I made him sandwiches, she says. When I pressed a cloth to his forehead. When he held the ladder for me. When I held the clock and it ticked again. Even if just for a moment. She pauses. That's what I believe in. Not ink, not labs. Ray nods, slow. Then, you think he'll come back? I think he already did. Ray doesn't press. He steps over, picks up one of the dried clocks from the table. It's messy. Cardboard and glue, a little crooked, one hand made from a popsicle stick. He grins. You're not bad at this teaching thing. June smiles. Neither are you at showing up late. They both chuckle. A comfortable silence follows, the kind that holds, not hovers. Ray puts the clock down, looks once more at the envelope. Then, without ceremony, he picks it up, walks to the wood stove and drops it in. It flares quickly, curling at the edges before disappearing into the embers. June doesn't flinch. She just watches it go. Ray sits beside her. They listen to the crackling of fire and distant laughter from the yard. Some kids still chasing the end of daylight. She leans slightly toward him. Not for comfort, but for company. He says, You're not knitting that for me, are you? She smirks. Not unless you've suddenly turned 5 and cold. He chuckles, and the last light fades. Inside, the fire glows steady, and outside, Button stays standing, still blooming, still growing. Exterior, front yard, evening, early spring. The sky holds the color of faded denim, soft, even, still. Wind moves through the trees in long, careful breaths. The porch light is already on. Not bright, just enough to say, someone's home. June steps out the front door, drying her hands with a dish towel. She pauses at the top step. Someone standing by the gate, tall, thin, still. The figure doesn't move, doesn't wave, just waits. She doesn't need to ask who. The boy, no, not quite a boy anymore, stands with the same backpack slung over one shoulder. He's taller now, hair longer, face a little leaner, like time did some quiet carving while he was gone, but the eyes still carrying that same quiet. June folds the towel over the porch rail, then walks forward, slow. No urgency, no disbelief, just recognition. They meet halfway down the path. He opens his mouth to speak. Nothing comes out. He tries again. Still nothing. She watches him a long second, then smiles, small and steady. You don't have to say a thing, she says. He lowers his eyes, almost ashamed. She reaches forward, gently tugs the strap of his backpack off his shoulder. Come on in, she says. The kettle's still warm. He doesn't move yet. His hands are clenched at his sides. She tilts her head, eyes soft. The tree's still here, you know. He looks up. She nods toward the backyard. It's waiting on you to bloom again. That breaks him, just a little. His jaw tightens. His eyes glisten, but nothing falls. She doesn't touch him. She just turns and walks back toward the porch. Halfway up the steps, she hears his footfalls behind her. They don't speak, not yet. Inside, the lights are warm, and the door, as always, stays open long enough for someone finding their way back.